Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about the Final Fantasy XIV mobile game that was just announced. How bad can it get? I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this. I've been chatting with my community on Discord, and I'm just really excited and interested and curious. I'm not negative. I'm not particularly positive. I'm just so curious. And of course, that gets me excited because I love theorizing about things. I love guessing. And there's nothing more exciting to guess about than an upcoming mobile game of your favorite game on the planet. So yeah, Final Fantasy XIV is coming to mobile, and there's more news coming out as various Final Fantasy XIV content creators share inside information they were given by Square Enix, CBU3, and Lightspeed Studios. Now, Lightspeed Studios, as far as I can tell, is a Chinese game dev studio. They will be recreating the game from the ground up while staying faithful to the original story. And they hope to make the game available on mobile with all of the activities and combat experiences we are used to. Now, there's an ongoing question. Why a mobile game? I don't know who could be asking this question in this day and age, considering that most people on the planet have a mobile phone. I know, it's very hard to grasp, but aside from certain removed indigenous groups of people and the Amish, most people have a mobile phone. And game dev from Eastern Europe, who's part of our community, he told me that the largest growing population that can be targeted for games is in Southeast China, and in India. Those are the largest markets. Now, of course, there's some markets, let's say in Africa or maybe South America, but depending on the economic state of these countries, pricing and what money you can expect to come out of them is going to be quite varied. And honestly, not as much money can be extracted from those communities of poorer, let's be honest. They're more economically straightened in those parts of the world compared to the youth that was basically funding the golden age, I suppose you would call it, of console gaming in the West. Okay, so there's a mobile market out there. There's money to be made. We know that is true. But what kind of mobile game is going to capture their imagination and their hearts? That's the question. That's why tons and tons of companies are sinking research into finding out what can be the next big hit. Now, for Final Fantasy XIV Mobile, it's going to be rather special because it's not going to be like most mobile games out there because it has a good story. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked into a mobile game, and most stories I find on a mobile game, at best, with them paddling away, are, I would say, B tier. At best, B tier. Final Fantasy XIV has something super special to offer, which is a really amazing story. That is A tier for me. It is up there with the greats, with the classics. And I am not joking. I am 110% serious. So I think Final Fantasy XIV has something that will capture many people's imagination, but I'm not sure if everyone is quite ready to sit down and really grapple with a story like Final Fantasy XIV's. So I wonder how they're going to kind of break it down and make it a bit more palatable for people. I'm very curious as to how that will happen. Now, there's another concern, which is taking resources from CBU3. I'm happy to share with people and to let these doomer people know that CBU3 is actually not very involved in this insofar as the day-to-day operations of this game. If anything, they might be providing some oversight to ensure that everything is staying on the straight and narrow. They're probably providing some form of assets or text, right? So they're probably going to be handing over translation work and things like that. But as far as I can understand, everything from the ground up, from the net code to everything that's moving on the screen will be crafted by this studio. Now, of course, there are going to be some changes, like how much fidelity are you going to get on a phone? I mean, some phones can handle quite high graphical fidelity, but I imagine there's going to be some kind of a slider, just like we have in our PC versions, so you can run it on a potato. And of course, there is going to be a change in combat playstyle, and then there is the question of monetization. Now, all live service games have to be well monetized to support the game. Servers aren't free. So how is this game going to be monetized? Yoshi P came out and assured people that the microtransactions wouldn't be predatory and there will be no kind of gacha. So what kind of monetization can we expect? Well, let's go from worst case scenario to best case scenario, and we'll discuss the probabilities. First, we have to consider what Final Fantasy XIV currently offers. So for free, you can play up from A Realm Reborn to and through Stormblood up to Shadowbringers. Now, there are limitations, though. And if you were a free trial player for a period of time like me, you definitely know these limitations. Considering other MMO trials, I put heavy air quotes around those, FF14 is the gold standard for a trial, but if we compare it to what you can often get in a free-to-play game, the question is, could that free trial be made even better? And the answer is, of course, yes. So let's get into it. The Hellscape scenario. Yes, the Hellscape. There is a Hellscape that could happen in this mobile game where leveling and power are specifically designed and limited in order to support a system that involves Diablo Immortal-style materia melding. Could you imagine having to roll RNG on materia? Yeah, that's how bad it could get, I think. And then you'd have to like meld 5 of these special materia into a potentially good single mega materia. You could imagine how they could monetize that. Just look at Diablo Immortal and just think materia. Another situation would be buying special buffs or upgrades for PvP. Imagine just being so buffed up with your special materia, with your special gear, and you can just go in and you can like farm the minnows. I mean, that seems to me a hellscape right there. There's another worst case scenario, kind of one step above the complete hellscape that was Diablo Immortal and probably a lot of Korean MMO games. And it would be to charge real world money for glamour prisms. 3/4 of the dyes in the game could be moved into the shop. The aesthetician visits become like a $2 to $5 fee. All of your retainers are now, paid for by real world money. And of course, anything to do with materia or with any sort of a special buff or anything that you would want to put on your character, you could, worst case scenario, have to pay real world money for that. They could also provide paid shortcuts to relics and difficult to get glams. So why grind out for a set of that super sexy gear from Shadowbringers Eden raids? No. You can just pay $5 to get the whole set right away. Don't even worry about grinding it out. There could be paid shortcuts to tombstone events. They could limit character customization, and you have to pay to unlock more facial and body features. You could add grind into the game and pay to catch up or skip the grind. You could lock Boja and Eureka, like side content behind a paywall, right? And these are just, I think, stuff that would be extremely egregious and very sad to see. Would it actually bother me? No, because I actually never got really into, fantaing or anything like that. But I will say that the glamour prisms and the aesthetician visits are really fun for people who can't afford to get a Fanta, or people who don't want to use a Fanta, but who just want to kind of change things up with their character just a little bit. So I think this would still be really sucky. If anything in here happened in the game, I think it would be far from fun for a lot of people. But I would absolutely see a new young female base shelling out to overcome some of this stuff. Absolutely. Then there's, of course, the kind of middle of the road, which would be similar to the trial version that we have right now in Final Fantasy XIV. So there would be a guild cap, there would be limited communication, you can't join an FC, no housing, no easy access to certain raids, there would be no access to a party finder. And just like the current situation in the store, there would be story skips, fantasias, gender, race changing, wedding enhancements, mounts, minions, glams, extra retainers, all of that would be in the shop, just like it is right now. And I would find this acceptable. The limited communication, however, is not acceptable on a phone. That would have to go. So once again, I could live with mid, but I think it would be a severe misstep to have limited communication and a guild cap in a free-to-play mobile game. There's just some things that you could maybe get away with on the PC version, because lots and lots of people are comparing it to something like WoW and Guild Wars 2. And we can look at those other industry contenders, standards, and we could say, yeah, 14's doing fairly well, all things considered. Is it great? No. But it's a heck lot better than what's happening over there, right? And so absolutely, we can definitely, be very fine with how things are working right now in FF14 for free trial players. On the other hand, in the mobile space, that's a whole other kettle of fish. There's a whole other level of expectation. And I think if certain things weren't seen in the mobile games, such as, for example, being able to communicate freely with friends and make parties, I think that would really cause the mobile game to struggle. Once again, if they went back and they said to the free trial players, hey, we're going to lift this guild cap a bit, we're going to allow you to communicate a bit more, I think it would be actually even better. I think it would make Final Fantasy XIV platinum status, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of setting industry standards. I'm not necessarily complaining about the free trial, but I think it could be improved. And I think the mobile version is where we can start to look at what could we actually do to enhance the free trial so it's less of a punishment for free players. Now, of course, the best case scenario, the thing that will get me cheering, is that there will be no guild cap, no limited communication, free-to-play players can join the FCs, everyone will get housing and can access all content and use the party finder. And there could be optional, non-power related, cosmetic focused monthly pass, which would be a sub in disguise. So there would be this situation where you could have a daily login reward with tiny little things like, here's a free glamour prism, here's some free gil. But if you pay this monthly pass, which is about $5 or $10, then you're going to get this free glam set at the end of 30 days and whatever. And I absolutely could see this working, because I know that for most mobile games, the battle pass is essentially a sub. Okay, let's not get it twisted here. There's a lot of people running around talking about, free to play games. They're not free to play. Okay, they're not free to play. If you want to play the game and actually enjoy it, you're going to have to shell out money at some point, at least every month, and that's your sub. It's not being called a sub, but it is your sub. So I think we need to stop trying to obfuscate what is fairly obvious, I think, to everyone, which is that most mobile games do have some kind of a sub. They just call it a different name, and it works a little differently. They do, like, I think in best case scenarios, the monthly pass has a little bit of an incentive to put that money down. So if they could find out a way to cheaply make cosmetics, which I think could be done in China with the amount of manpower that they have over there, they throw out a glam for each monthly pass, whatever like that. And I think that would absolutely work as a sub in disguise. Honestly, best case would basically look like the free trial, but with a chunk of the limitations removed. And of course, all access to all content and all forms of the story would be slowly drip fed over time for free. Now, you're going to have some idiot idealists out there who are going to be like, well, no, there will be no monthly pass and there'll be no online store at all. I think people need to understand that these are businesses and they are intended to make money. Now, we can still hold them to a level of expectation and decency. I think that hand waving away issues is never good, and trying to justify certain practices by saying, well, it's the legal imperative of the company to make money, and so it's okay if they do this. Like, no, it's not okay, because by that extension, you could start, justifying all sorts of crazy stuff, like, having kids working and stuff like that. Like, let's try to find a middle of a road here where we can say that it is absolutely understandable that this game is going to be monetized. Okay. Final Fantasy XIV is already monetized. They charge you for your expansion. They have the monthly sub, and then they have all the stuff in the store. Now, whether people who pay a monthly sub should have to pay for stuff in the store, that's a very good question to ask. Personally, I would give monthly sub payers like store credit, and then they could save up the store credit and then buy something from the store on occasion. There's a few ways that you could go around to incentivizing players to remain subbed. But the long and the short of it is things in life don't come for free. Not really. It's going to come at your expense at some point down the road, or it's going to come at someone else's expense. So I am very, very, very interested to find out, number one, is it going to have a playstyle more similar to Genshin? And number two, is it going to have very gross monetization? Now, what if it comes out that this game is going to be closer to my mid projections or my worst case scenario projections? What's going to happen then? My friend and I will still play it together, and we'll just play it for the story. We'll just be very careful about how we make her character, and we'll just have fun where we can have fun. As long as the story stays intact, there's something worth enjoying there. And even these days, books cost a lot of money. So paying a little bit to enjoy the story just a little bit more is not a big deal to me. I think the thing for me will be Final Fantasy XIV being able to remain free of monetization. One thing that always concerned me is that as Square Enix has experienced a bunch of various blunders like Forspoken and Babylon Falls or whatever it was called, and I get a little worried. I get a little worried that they'll look at Final Fantasy XIV and be like, yes, there is our favored prized cash cow chewing away, on the cud. How can we monetize it more? And I just get really worried that somehow Yoshi P will be, having a well-earned nap somewhere and something will get pushed through without him knowing. And the reality is that 14, despite the fact that I believe in CBU 3, and I think they are genuinely trying to do their best, I think CBU 3 is still very much beholden to its parent company, and their jobs are dependent on them pleasing their employers as much as it is dependent on pleasing us. And so I think I get a bit worried that 14 could end up being grossly monetized. And we have Yoshi P to thank for keeping the store out of the game. There have been so many games that I've gone into, mobile games and MMOs, where the store is accessible straight from the game. In 14, you cannot access the store from the game. And that is so special nowadays. I don't know if all 14 players understand how special that is and how important that is. I think this is something that is very underestimated. So for me, I've always prized the way FF14 has never breathed down my neck. Pull this, click here, get this free thing, go into the store, scroll through twice to get to the one free thing that you can click on. And I just really appreciate FF14 for what it does. Even if there are areas where I could definitely see them improving, I am also very, very, very thankful for what they have achieved so far. In short, I definitely feel like there is a way for FF14 to remain clear of gross monetization, and this mobile game could end up being grossly monetized, but I don't care because if that means that FF14, the base game, is left alone, then I'm gold. I'm gold. I'm fine. I don't care. It's fine. But if they can actually put out a lovely little game on mobile that really pays homage to the original story in a very respectful and wonderful way, and that is somewhere in the mid-course for monetization that allows me to play it with my friend reasonably well, then I will be extremely, extremely happy. But once again, that is just something that that's how I view it. That's how I view it. So, yeah. So there we go. That is my take on FF14 Mobile. I am curious. I am excited, but not in like a hype train way excited. I'm excited to see the beta, to test it out. I would love to test it out. I would love to see what they've done to it. How have they made the combat different? Is it going to be basically the PvP combat in a PvE system? I don't know. I'm so excited just to see how it's going to work. I can't wait to see where the flaws are, where the strengths are. And if the story has been maintained with full respect, then I can't wait to play it with my friend and we can enjoy the story together. So anyway, I'm very curious and cautiously optimistic. But once again, it could go so very wrong. It could go very, very wrong. So we need to make sure we're not on a doom train, but we also need to make sure we're not getting on a hype train. There's no train. We're just standing on the platform, keeping our heads, keeping our feet rooted on the ground, and we're going to see what happens. If more news comes out, I'll share it and some of my thoughts with you. Let me know in the comment section down below all of the ways that I have completely missed out on the hellscape scenario. Are there even more things that you could come up with hellish microtransactions for Square Enix to implement? You let me know in the comment section down below. I'll see you all next time.